My family planned their Florida retirement with my money, then I found out the truth and turned their life into nightmare with this shocking move. I'm Ethan, a 32-year-old male who owns and operates his own workout equipment distribution business. It is not dropshipping or MLM fraud, but the real thing. We're talking heavy-duty, commercial-grade equipment for serious gyms, CrossFit boxes, and professional training centers. I built this entire thing from scratch 7 years ago. Consider this, 25-year-old me living in a cramped one-bedroom apartment and working out of a garage that barely housed a car. God, I miss driving around in a beat-up Ford Ranger, stopping at every gym within a 100-mile radius to make contacts. At start, I was just transporting the basics. Dumbbells, weight plates, resistance bands, whatever I could fit in that vehicle. The first 2 years were terrible. I was living off protein shakes and canned tuna, working from 4 a.m. until midnight most days. The number of times I heard no, or we already have a supplier, would have broken most individuals. But every no only encouraged me to push harder. I'd go home, look into better items, make more calls, and send more emails. Sleep? This was for the weak. My big break came when I secured an exclusive contract with a European firm known for producing high-quality products. Nobody else in the area was carrying it, so all of the gyms that said no started contacting me back. From there, it exploded. Now I have 3 warehouses, 28 people, and we are the preferred supplier for half of the serious gyms in the tri-state area. But this is where the tale becomes tricky. My family sat on the sidelines, watching like vultures, as I built everything from nothing. My father, Ron, used to be an avid boxing trainer. He used to own his own gym, which was rather successful, and he taught me all I knew about the fitness industry. But conveniently, he injured his back just as I turned 18 and was about to start college. It's ironic that his disability didn't prevent him from enjoying golf or fishing, but it did make him unable to work. My mother, Diane, was a classic enabler. She has never worked a day in her life, always have an excuse ready. "Oh, I'm too old to start working now," she'd say. She was 52. People start entire careers in their 50s, but that seemed too much for her. Then there's my sister, Katie. Holy cow, where do I even begin with her? She is 2 years younger than me, yet that translates into zero responsibility in my parents' perspective. This girl has failed at more things than most people do, but not because she tries. Because she doesn't have to face the consequences. Allow me to paint you a picture. While I was working 16-hour days, sleeping on a futon in my office, and reinvesting every dime back into the business, Katie was finding herself. She attempted beauty school but dropped out after 3 months because it wasn't hard enough. Translation: she had to be on time and perform the work. Then she decided she wanted to become a personal trainer. That lasted 2 weeks until she realized it was too demanding. She's smashed 3 automobiles, maxed out countless credit cards, and still lands on her feet because mom and dad are there to catch her. Meanwhile, I needed to be prepared from the start. Do you know how my parents supported me when I first started my business? That's nice, honey. Speaking of money, can you help with the electric bill this month? That this month became every month. By the age of 23, I was responsible for their mortgage payments. By 25, I was handling all of their bills, including electricity, car insurance, and property taxes. "Family helps family," Mom would remark, playing the guilt card like an expert poker player. "You're doing so well, and we're so proud. It's not like you can't afford it." And, like an idiot, I fell for it, year after year. I convinced myself I was doing the right thing, that I was a nice son, and that maybe they'd come to enjoy it. Looking back, I realize how messed up it all was. I was creating something tangible as they perpetuated my sister's never-ending cycle of failures and treated me like their personal ATM. What particularly bothers me is that whenever I achieve a key business milestone, such as launching a new warehouse or getting a large contract, they barely acknowledge it, but let Katie keep down a job for more than 2 weeks, and it was as if she had cured cancer. Family dinner celebrations, the whole 9 yards. Meanwhile, I'm growing a garage operation into a multi-million-dollar corporation, and everyone says, "Oh, that's nice. By the way, the property taxes are due next week." So let me explain how the money situation escalated from occasional help to supporting 4 individuals who refused to work. It began when I was 23. I just scored my first major deal, delivering equipment to a chain of boutique gyms. Finally, some actual money came in. Not buy a yacht money, but certainly pay all my bills and have some leftover money. That's when the calls began. Then came the dad. Hey son, bit of a situation with the mortgage. Just need a little help this month. Next, she said, the electric company is threatening to shut us off and you know your father's back. They always used his back problem as a trump card to justify everything. Meanwhile, my sister Katie was living her best life. Let me give you some examples of the nonsense she did while I was supporting our parents. She decided she wanted to become a yoga instructor. Cool, right? Except, she requested that mom and dad pay for her certification. $3,000. They obviously didn't have the money, so guess who received the call? But wait, things get better. She dropped out after 2 classes because the energy wasn't right. That's $3,000 down the drain. Then there was the time she became interested in crystals and essential oils and decided to create her own health business rather than simply using them. I maxed out 3 credit cards while buying stuff. When it failed, guess who had to assist pay the credit card bills? Congratulations if you guessed me, you are catching on. My personal favorite was the ecological fashion retail stage. She persuaded dad to co-sign a lease for a retail space. Keep in mind that this is the same individual who is unable to work due to his injuries, yet is allegedly able to sign legal paperwork. 3 months later, the firm failed because she spent more time preparing picture shoots for non-existent clientele than she did running it. However, the rent still had to be paid. And since dad's name was on the lease, you guessed it, another call to good old Ethan. Son, we really need your help. You know we wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. Throughout this, I'm still grinding. Expanded into a second warehouse, hired more employees, and made significant industry movements. But whenever I reached a milestone, it was eclipsed by some familial turmoil. Have you landed a large contract with a national gym chain? Sorry, we can't celebrate because Katie's car was repossessed and she needs assistance in buying a new one. Did you open a new warehouse? Cool. But have you heard Katie's thoughts about returning to school? Spoiler. She did not. They stopped asking about money since it had become so conventional. Bills such as rent, utilities, car payments, and insurance would just appear in my email. Everything fell under my purview by default. What if I ever hesitated? Oh boy. Mom would take out the big guns. We're not asking for much, Ethan. You're doing so well, and the family has to stick together. Dad would take the guilt way. You know I'd still be running the gym if I could. I taught you everything you know about this business. He taught me about boxing. I taught myself everything about running a profitable business. What is Katie's contribution to these conversations? Must be nice to have so much money you can lord it over everyone. Some of us are trying to find our passion. This is coming from someone who had never worked for more than 3 months in her life. The actual kicker? They began planning their retirement on my dime. I learned they were hunting for condos in Florida. Florida. They had the audacity to give me listings, claiming it would be a terrific investment for the family. Yeah, because I was the one who was going to pay for it. Do you want to know how much money we are talking about? Over 5 years. I paid their mortgage, $2,400 every month. Utilities, average, cost $400 per month. Car payments, for 2 vehicles, $800 per month insurance, home and auto, $350. Monthly property taxes, $6,000 annually. Random emergencies, around $25,000 total. Katie's multiple failed ventures, around $40,000. That's more than $175,000. Let that sink in. And that doesn't include all of the lesser expenses like groceries, phone bills, and medical copay. And what did I receive in return? A pat on the back, and another bill in my inbox. Some of you may be thinking, Ethan, you're an idiot for letting this go so long. Trust me, I know. Looking back, I can't believe I fell for it too. But when you grow up being told that family is everything and that you must look after your own, it affects your mental health. You begin to believe that saying no means you're the evil guy. This is when Lauren, my wife, entered my life and gradually opened my eyes to how twisted up my family situation was. I met Lauren at a powerlifting tournament sponsored by my company. I wasn't even intended to be present that day. My sales manager had the illness, so I had to cover the booth. The best dang luck of my life. Lauren didn't compete. She's a sports physical therapist who deals with professional athletes. She was there with one of her customers, an incredible beast of a man who ended up breaking 3 state records that day. I noticed her because, unlike most people at these events, she was more interested in the equipment specifications than the glitzy branding. She came to my stand and inquired about the knurling pattern on our competition bars. Not the standard, how much does it cost? Or, does it come in different colors? She was curious about grip diameter differences and how they affect different lifting patterns. I'm not going to lie, having a woman who knew her business was quite appealing. We started talking, and the next thing I knew, we were having coffee after the event. That went into supper, which led to more dates. And man, it was different from the beginning. This woman had her act together in a way that made me realize how much turmoil I had accepted in my life. Lauren grew up in a regular family, like truly normal. Her parents worked regular jobs, put her through college, and expected her to manage her own life after that. They are proud of her accomplishments but have never asked her for money. Isn't that an incredible idea? Initially, I tried to keep my family problems separate from our relationship. But when you're spending thousands of dollars every month on other people's bills, this stuff comes up. She learned about my family duties around 3 months into our relationship. Katie had another emergency, so I had to cancel our plans. She had bounced a check at her child's daycare, and they refused to take him back until it was paid. Mom was sobbing about how they couldn't watch him due to Dad's back. It's funny how that back injury only flares up when there's work to be done. So there I was, preparing to transfer another grand to clean up my sister's mess. Lauren simply sat there, listening to me explain this as if it were normal. She said something that hit me like a truck. "Ethan, you know that's not your responsibility, right?" These were simple words, yet they really stuck with me. Because in my household, I was responsible for everything. Is business doing well? It's time to pay additional bills. Got a bonus? Help Katie with her latest scam. Have you finally saved enough for the new equipment line? Sorry, Mom and Dad need a new roof. Lauren began to notice trends that I had been oblivious to for years, such as how my parents only called when they wanted something, how every family dinner became a presentation of bills and urgent requirements, or how Katie could drop $500 on some MLM scheme but couldn't pay her own electricity bill. Then we married. The small ceremony was primarily for her family and my close friends. My family? They arrived late because Katie had a meltdown that morning about her ex failing to pick up the kids on time. Dad complained about the venue's chairs hurting his back during the reception, but after a few drinks he was able to hit the dance floor without incident. The true eye-opener came when our son Alex was born. Everything changed the moment a man held him for the first time. I looked at this tiny human and considered the example I was setting. Did I want him to grow up believing it was usual to be used by family? Did success mean being everyone else's piggy bank? Lauren's parents treated Alex with great care from the start. Regular visits, always trying to help, never expecting anything in return. Meanwhile, my parents were only interested in doing things when it was convenient. Mom would cancel arrangements at the last minute because Katie needed emotional support following another failed relationship. Dad would vow to come by but then not show up because his back was acting up. They only complained the one time they watched Alex. He's quite energetic, Ethan. Not like Katie's kids, who are so well behaved. Yeah, because her children spend all day on iPads, whilst my son plays and explores as a child should. I started observing that they handled Alex differently than Katie's kids. Katie's children received costly birthday presents and regular attention. Alex received whatever was on clearance at Walmart, assuming they remembered at all. Last Christmas, they spent $300 on gifts for Katie's children. Alex received a $20 gift card to Target. Lauren witnessed all of this, but never pushed me. She just posed questions that made me think, why do you believe they treat Alex differently? Or, how would you feel if Alex grew up and was treated the same way you are now? This is the point at which everything went wrong. It's Wednesday morning, and I'm in my office getting ready for the biggest meeting of my career. Dick's Sporting Goods was interested in a national distribution agreement and an 8-figure contract. This is game-changing material. I'd been working on this transaction for months, getting data and samples ready down to the slightest detail. My suit was pressed, my presentation was flawless, and I felt confident. Then my phone rang. It's Lauren. My wife no longer calls during working hours unless it is an emergency. She works with a pro baseball player who is recovering from Tommy John surgery and is at a critical point in his rehabilitation. His agent required her in Chicago as soon as possible, and a private flight had already been booked. This was a professional chance she couldn't pass up. Not a big thing, right? We are successful grown-ups who can handle scheduling disruptions. Except, our nanny had called in ill that morning. There is a stomach illness running around the daycare. Alex was in Lauren's workplace playing in the kids section she had put up for clients who brought their children. Like I said, my wife considers everything. We only needed someone to monitor Alex for one night. One night. Who was the first person I called? My mom. This seemed like an obvious choice to me. Both of my parents are unemployed by choice, live 15 minutes away, and are constantly talking about how much they miss their grandchild. Plus, you are aware that I have only been paying their bills for the past 5 years. The conversation went as follows. Me. Hello, Mom. I need a favor. Lauren has an emergency with a client, and I have this important meeting. Can you and Dad watch Alex tonight? Mom laughs as if she were genuinely laughing. Oh, Ethan, sweetie, we are not babysitters. We've already raised our kids. It is not our responsibility to take care of yours. I'm sitting at my office, still dressed in my $2,000 suit. The first one I ever bought made me feel like I needed to look the part for this meeting. Just staring at my phone. 5 years of paying their mortgage, electricity, auto payments, and unexpected expenses. 5 years as their personal bank, and this is what I get. But something seemed odd. You know that sensation you get when something doesn't add up? Maybe it was all those years of checking inventory statistics, but something didn't feel right. I instructed my assistant to reschedule Dick's meeting. She felt I was insane. This was enormous. But here's something I've learned from business. Believe your intuition. When something feels wrong, it probably is. I got into my truck and proceeded to their house. I didn't call ahead. I did not text, just drove straight there. Their driveway comes into view, and guess what I see? Katie's beat-up Honda Civic parked there. On a Wednesday afternoon, she's meant to be at work. Now let me tell you about their residence. It's a great 4-bedroom in a desirable area. Why do they need 4 bedrooms if it's only them? I am paying for it, that is why. They insisted on using the facility for family visits. It's funny since the only family who ever stays there is Katie when she's between residences. I step up to the door. Don't even knock, why should I? I pay the mortgage. So, what do I find in the living room? My parents are on the floor playing with Katie's children. Katie was reclined on their $2,000 couch, which I paid for, looking through her phone. Mom and Dad are down there with construction blocks looking like the ideal grandparents. Ethan! Mom springs up as if she has seen a ghost. What are you doing here? I'm standing there in my suit looking at the scene when something inside me snaps. But not in a screaming manner. It's almost terrifying in its strange, peaceful manner. Funny, I say, my voice low. I thought you weren't babysitters. Katie rolls her eyes, hardly even looking up from her cell phone. Ethan, some of us do require support at times. Not everyone can be as perfect as you. That's when Mom starts making excuses. This is different, honey. Katie experienced a migraine. She simply needs to rest. A migraine? I repeat, my voice remaining oddly quiet. She has a migraine, so you drop everything and watch her kids. But when I've been paying your expenses for years and need aid for one night due to an emergency, suddenly you're not babysitters. Dad, who has remained quiet the entire time, begins stroking his temples. Son, you're making too big a deal out of this. Your sister needs help. And I don't? My voice cracks slightly. I have the biggest meeting of my career. Lauren has an emergency with a client. We need one night of help with your grandson. But I guess that's too much to ask from the people whose entire life I've been financing for the past 5 years. Katie Findlay looks up from her phone with that smug little grin she always has. Must be nice to have so much money that you can hold it over everyone's heads. Some of us actually struggle, you know. That's when I lost it. Not with a scream, but with a sense of finally seeing everything clearly. I took out my phone, accessed my banking app, and looked up the numbers. Let's talk about struggle, Katie. Let's talk about the $175,000 I've given mom and dad over the past 5 years. Let's talk about your loans that never got repaid. Let's talk about how you haven't held a job for more than 3 months since high school, but somehow always have money for new clothes and hair appointments. The room became very quiet. The $175,000 figure I had just mentioned lingered in the air like a nasty odor. Katie, for the first time in her life, did not respond intelligently. But my mother, yes, she shifted tactics quickly. It's like watching a master manipulator in action. The first step is to feel guilty. Ethan, honey, you're making us sound like terrible parents. After everything we've done for you. I cut her off right then. What exactly have you done for me, Mom? Because from where I'm standing, I've been carrying this entire family since I was 23. So please, enlighten me. What have you done besides take my money and treat me like an ATM? Dad tried to intervene with his peacemaker routine. Now, son, you know that's not fair. I taught you everything you know about this business. That's when I started laughing. Like, truly laughed. You taught me about boxing, Dad. I taught myself everything about running a business. While you were nursing your convenient back injury, I was working 16-hour days, sleeping in my warehouse and building something real. The only thing you taught me was how to spot nonsense, and right now I'm seeing it clearly. Katie finally got up from the couch and tried to make herself cry. You're such a jerk, Ethan. Just because you got lucky with your business doesn't mean you're better than everyone else. Some of us have real problems. Real problems? I approached the window and pointed to her automobile. That Honda Civic? I paid for it when you wrecked your last car. Those designer shoes you're wearing? Probably bought with the loan you got from mom and dad last month, which really means my money. Your kid's private school tuition? Yeah, that's coming from the money I give them too. So please, tell me more about your real problems. Mom began crying at this moment, not the false tears she always uses, but genuine angry crying. How dare you throw this in our faces? We're family. Family helps each other, I reiterated. Funny how that only goes one way. Where was the family help when I was starting my business? Where was the family's help when I needed a co-signer for my first warehouse lease? Where's the family help right now, when I need one night of childcare for your grandson? That's when Katie dropped the bomb, making everything crystal plain. Well, maybe if you hadn't moved Alex's daycare to that expensive place across town, he could go to the same one as my kids. Then we could help each other out. I gently turned to her. The expensive place across town? You mean the one that actually has qualified teachers and doesn't park kids in front of iPads all day? The one that costs exactly what I used to spend on your monthly emergencies? That's the one you're talking about? I then turned to my parents. And you two. Let's talk about that back injury, Dad. Funny how it only acts up when there's work to be done, but you can play golf every Wednesday with your buddies. Or Mom, how you're too old to work, but somehow manage to go on shopping trips with Katie 3 times a week. My father actually had the guts to appear offended. My injury is real, Ethan. You know that. Is it? Because I've got a friend who's a sports physical therapist, you know, my wife, and she says, it's pretty miraculous how your injury only seems to affect you when it's convenient. The room became very silent after that. The kind of stillness in which you can hear everyone pondering about their next move. Katie's children were in the other room, oblivious to everything. Probably viewing videos on the tablets, which I believe I also paid for. That's when my mother tried one final time. Ethan, sweetheart, I think you're overreacting. We can talk about this like adults. Maybe if you're feeling overwhelmed with the bills, we can work something out. And there was no apology or acknowledgement of how they had used me. Just another attempt at negotiating terms that would allow them to continue taking advantage of me. You know what? Keep the money. Keep the house. Keep pretending you're the perfect parents to Katie while treating my son like a second-class grandchild. I'm done. Katie scoffed. Yeah, right. You always say that, but you'll cave. You always do. I looked her dead in the eyes. Not this time, sis. You want to know why? Because I finally see you all clearly. Mom and Dad aren't unable to work, they're unwilling. You're not struggling, you're lazy. And I'm not helping the family, I'm enabling parasites. I wish I could bottle the look on their faces. It was as if they recognized the gravy train had arrived at the station. I left that house feeling lighter than I had in years. But this was not the end. Oh no, this was only the beginning of their biggest nightmare, confronting real consequences for their conduct. I didn't get much sleep that night. Lauren arrived home late from Chicago and found me in my home office sorting through years of financial data. She looked at my face and knew something was wrong. When I informed her what had happened, she simply nodded and asked, "So what's the plan?" That is my wife. There's no drama. No, I told you that. Just go straight to the solutions. By 3 a.m., we had everything planned out, with spreadsheets and paperwork. The following morning, I went nuclear. First stop, my accountant's office. When I showed him how much I had given my family over the years, he almost died. "Ethan," he replied, staring at the figures, "this is more than some people's retirement savings." Yes, no kidding. He helped me document everything. Every transfer, every bill payment, and every loan. Next up, my lawyer. Remember the Dick's Sporting Goods meeting that I rescheduled? My lawyer's office was in the same building, indicating that the universe has a sense of humor. I completed the business agreement in the morning, which was a huge success, and then spent the afternoon legally protecting myself from what I expected. Then came the fun part. I started canceling everything one by one. Is their mortgage on autopay? Gone. Utility bills? Canceled. Car insurance? Bye-bye. Credit card payments? Not my concern anymore. Property tax account? Closed. What about a cell phone family plan? I hope they like prepaid. Here's the issue about cutting somebody off. You have to do it all simultaneously. It's like pulling off a Band-Aid. You can't do it half-heartedly. They'll find methods to guilt you back in. So I went all in. I sent them a single text. "You're on your own now. Figure it out." Then they blocked their numbers. All of them. Mom, Dad, and Katie even had a landline. Because yes, I was also paying for that. The meltdown was biblical. Within hours, they had blown up every available channel. My work phone? 47 missed calls. Email inbox. This looks like a spam folder. Lauren's phone? They also attempted that. The office's landline? My underpaid receptionist deserves a raise. Mom's initial email was precisely what you'd expect. How could you do this to your own family? We're going to lose everything. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof. Katie's kids need stability. Notice how there was no mention of Alex. Nothing about how they treated me, no admission of their behavior, just fear of losing their meal ticket. Dad attempted a business angel. "Son, let's handle this like businessmen. We can work something out. Maybe set up a payment plan." A payment plan. They treated me as if I were a credit card corporation with which they might negotiate. But Katie went completely nuclear. Started calling my staff to try to reach me. Showed up at one of my warehouses, raising such a ruckus that my loading dock manager, a veteran Marine, had to accompany her out. She was yelling about how I was destroying the family, how her children would suffer, and how I was simply envious of her free spirit. What is the best part? My lawyer had previously prepared a cease and desist letter. One frightening letter alleging harassment later, Katie remembered how to behave like a grown-up. Then came the financial reality check. It turns out that after 5 years of living on someone else's pay, you forget how bills work. Within 2 weeks, their ideal little world began to crumble. Dad's back problem unexpectedly improved, allowing him to begin looking for a job. Mom learned that it exists. Katie had to cancel her wellness vacation or spa weekend. Their country club membership had lapsed. The lawn service has ceased arriving. Their favorite eatery has ceased seeing them. My security team. Yes, I have one now. Having a successful business requires taking precautions and reporting that Mom and Dad were seen entering. Wait for it. A career fair. The horror. But here's the real kicker. Remember the Florida condominium they were looking at? Which one did they expect me to buy for their retirement? They had already paid a refundable deposit with my money. When they had to back out, the realtor contacted me to refund the deposit. They apparently utilized my corporate email for the correspondence. That money went directly into Alex's education fund. What about the cherry on top? Katie's ex-husband reached out to me. She had been telling him I was assisting with child support so he wouldn't have to pay as much. Yeah, that information was sent directly to his lawyer. Was it harsh? Maybe. But do you know what is harsh? Using your own child as an ATM, while treating his son as a second-class citizen, taking advantage of someone's accomplishment without providing anything, playing favorites with grandchildren based on which parent is easier to control. And this was only the beginning. 3 months after I cut them off, the reality of their condition set in. Their lovely little world was absolutely broken. Let me go down how each of them dealt with the consequences of their conduct. First up, my father. Remember the strange back injury that rendered work impossible? It's interesting how rapidly it mended after the money stopped flowing. A friend of mine who owns a local gym informed me that Dad came in searching for a job. Mom's makeover went even better. After 15 years of being too old to work, she realized she was perfectly capable of holding a job. She's now a hostess at Applebee's. Yes, the same Applebee's where she used to complain about the poor service and leave a 5% tip. Karma has a sense of humor, I'll give it that. But Katie, man. Katie's story is my favorite. Remember how she was constantly reinventing herself and launching new businesses, which I ended up paying for myself? Reality struck her like a freight train. Her ex-husband's lawyer utilized the knowledge that she lied about child support to reopen their custody agreement. It turns out that courts dislike parents who mislead about their financial arrangements. She had to move back in with Mom and Dad since she could no longer afford her apartment. 3 adults, 2 kids, all packed into the house I used to pay for. The same house is now in pre-foreclosure because, surprise, they cannot afford it on their own. But here's where things become really good. Last week they attempted one final guilt trip. Mom shared an epic sob tale on Facebook about how her successful son abandoned his poor family. Let me share some memorable quotes. It breaks my heart to see how money can change a person. My own son, who I raised and nurtured, has turned his back on us in our time of need. We're struggling to put food on the table while he lives in luxury. What kind of person abandons their own parents, their own sister? The comments were exactly what you'd expect all these folks who don't know the true story to say, that's terrible. How could he do that to his own mother? And my personal favorite, family is everything. So, do you know what I did? I dropped the receipts. All of them. I made a single post that was completely professional and simply stated the facts. In the interest of transparency, here are the financial records of my support over the past 5 years. Then I listed everything. All mortgage payments, each utility bill, every loan to Katie, the entire sum that went into her failing businesses, the price of their autos, everything. I then added the screenshots, Mom's text, giggling about not babysitting Alex, emails concerning the Florida condo that they intended me to buy Katie's communications, seek money for her many scams. Dad's golf club membership renewal was strangely prioritized over his grandson. The fallout was stunning. Family members I hadn't heard from in years began contacting me, not to guilt me, but to apologize for believing their version of the story. Mom and Dad had painted a picture of me as a caring, supporting son who was eager to help the family. Nobody realized they were basically extorting me. Katie's ex-husband's attorney hit the jackpot with all of this proof. She's now working 2 genuine jobs, not wellness coaching or whatever her previous plan was to pay her child support. She spends her days at Target and her nights serving tables. She apparently had a meltdown when they forced her to wear the red polo shirt rather than allowing her to express her individual style. Last weekend, I drove by their house on my way to Alex's minor league game. The grass has become overgrown because they can no longer afford landscaping services. Dad's cherished Mercedes was repossessed, and now he drives a beat-up Corolla. Mom's luxury bag collection has inexplicably vanished from her Facebook photographs. But you know what? I do not feel awful, not even a tiny amount, because while they suffer with the consequences of their acts, I'm creating something real. What happened to the money I used to waste on them? It is going to Alex's college fund. I'm working to expand my business into things that really matter. Lauren says I should be proud of finally standing up for myself. But really? I just feel free. It feels like I can finally breathe. Alex will never grow up believing it is usual to be used by relatives. He'll never assume his worth is determined by how much money he gives out. And what about my parents and sister? They're finally learning what the rest of us have always known. The actual world does not care about your excuses. It cares about what you do. They made their decisions. Now they can live with them.